All right, guys, we're back on Southeastern 16. Chase Robinson joins, and we are previewing Tennessee versus ETSU, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. We always tell you about our friends at FanDuel, our new title sponsor here at Southeastern 16. You get in on all the action over there, same game parlays. They got team props, futures, it's all there. But we don't have a line on this game because it is one that you've got Tennessee, versus a non opponent there, so we know these games usually not on the board. So the Vols, Chase, we'll talk about them for a minute, then we'll get into the Bucs. But of course, Tennessee gets a big win against Syracuse. Joey Aguilar was the talk going in. I think he was the talk coming out of it based on his performance. I think that was the thing, right? We said going into this game for Tennessee and Syracuse, it was kind of two teams similar on offense. They had a lot to replace from last year, bit of a new look. And at least on the offensive side of the ball, Tennessee, I thought, passed the test, Chase, because they look pretty good. Stark Thomas at running back, I thought did a lot of good things. That guy is, I think, going to be a fan favorite this year for Tennessee fans. And so that was clearly one of the biggest takeaways from the Week 1 matchup against Syracuse.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was down on Tennessee going into the year. I did not think that they could perform the way they did, even in that game Saturday. But they impressed me. Like, I feel like Joey Aguilar, he made some really good throws. He was really crisp on his throws. He looked good. He looked the part. I really liked watching him, and I think he has a chance to do some big things this year for Tennessee. He was 16 of 28, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns. So I thought he threw the ball well, and he ran for about 34 yards too, and he had some good receivers to throw to, and like you mentioned, the run game was on too with Star Thomas. So I think overall, like, I was really impressed with Tennessee, and I thought their defense was going to be what kept them in games this year. But I'm thinking now the offense can do that too. Like, this is a well-rounded Tennessee team from what I saw Saturday. Now, maybe Syracuse is not what we thought they were, and we'll learn more about Tennessee as we move on. But based off what I saw Saturday, I feel like this is a pretty well-rounded Tennessee team.
Yeah, and we'll get to the defense in a second. There was an interesting quote, I thought, from one of their players on defense. But you mentioned, Aguilar's numbers, Star Thomas, 12 carries, 92 yards in that game, 7.7 an average yards per carry. Deshaun Bishop, 11 carries, 82 yards, had a touchdown, had the 47-yarder, 7.5, yards per game. That's where, and this is one of the things we talked about in the reaction stream we did after that. And I said, it's just, we always laugh about it. And I feel like even to this day, it's still brought up. But we just have to remember, like, Tennessee is not just, hey, we want to pass every single time. Like, they want to run the ball. And that's why when you look at kind of that stable of backs they've had the past couple of years, it was really just a matter of, all right, there's no Dylan Sampson. We know the guys that came before that, like, just not having those guys as well. And it's just like they just keep churning out the running backs that they need to be able to run this system effectively. And I'm going to once again bring up Tennessee fans. I was going to say are tired of hearing me say this, but they're probably not. Josh Heupel is one of the best when it comes to just to the play calling, the situational stuff. Like, he is absolutely tremendous. I think he's easily one of the top in the country at that. And I think that's going to be one of their biggest assets, moving forward, no matter if it's this season or beyond. I just think he puts them in such a good position offensively. And so at least through one game, I think that is something that stood out, is that he's got the talent and he's going to put them in the best position to succeed. And I think he's always done that since he's been there. I mentioned the defense. I know that was one of the biggest takeaways too on the live stream for some people, is that obviously they need to clean up some things on the defensive side. And Joshua Josephs had, I think, a pretty good, quote, and I think it applies to this game, right? Look, folks, we're doing what we can here. Like, we have no line. We kind of know what to expect from a game like this. But if you're previewing it, what does Tennessee want to achieve in this game? And that's where his quote was this, quote, "Speaking as a defense, I don't believe we set the right tone as we should have. It's like we left a lot of things out there." So I think that's what you're going to see, Chase, to me, is you're going to see a Tennessee team where you're trying to find those things. What do we need to work on in a game like this? They are going to probably want to come out and set the right tone defensively because, like we said, that was probably one of the only areas where you're coming out of that game feeling like, all right, we could have done some things better in that department.
No, there's no doubt. And game one, I don't like to judge anybody off of game one. But like the defense, yeah, there was some things they can work on. But then I look at they had 5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. Like I feel like they were able to put a lot of pressure on Syracuse, and that's something I kind of circle in a game like this. Even though, and we'll get to ETSU's quarterback in a minute, who's a familiar name in college football, like they are going to pressure you, and that's going to be a problem for a lot of teams this year. If Tennessee, if this defensive front can put the pressure they did on Syracuse on some of these other teams, they're going to cause some problems. I like the defensive front. I think there's some really good things on this defense this year for Tennessee.
Yep, I think so too. And, like we said, one of those where you want to clean up some things. I think they gave up 5 pass plays of 20 or more yards. So those are, again, the kind of things that you probably want to see in a game like this. But we know, too, they should be, from a talent standpoint, in a position to have a lot of success here. And first-year head coach at ETSU, a familiar name, and Will Healy. And people know him, someone who, again, started at Austin Peay, completely turned that program around, went to Charlotte, didn't exactly have the same kind of success there. But, Chase, this was a guy that was, Vanderbilt fans were like, hey, whenever they went to make the hire before Clark Lee, they're like, let's take a look at Will Healy. Like, he's someone that feels like he's a guy that's on the way up, like in terms of your young coaches out there. Because, like I said, what he did at Austin Peay, it's just – you just don't see that very often in terms of being able to transform a program like that. And so he takes over here. You mentioned it's kind of an interesting staff that he's got from an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator standpoint. In their first game, they totaled over 550 yards of offense. They forced 3 turnovers, 45-17 win against Murray State. Some familiar names as well for this team. Cade McNamara, who we know, I think it's his 6th year. It has to be a 6th year.
Has to be. He's been around a while.
He has to be. He's been around a while. Was at Michigan, then he was at Iowa. He's there, but also Jacolby Criswell from North Carolina is there as well. So, this is one of those teams, and it's like, hey, they've got, 2 quarterbacks that have played very, very valuable, top-tier sort of minutes and experience here at these specific schools at the power conference level. I think that's kind of an interesting thing too. And remember, they were a top 20 defense last year in FBS, and plus they've got a lot of transfers they've added to the mix to feel like they could certainly maybe even eclipse that this year.
Yeah, I was super impressed with kind of the roster as I was looking through it that they've put together, and they got a spectacular running back in Devontae Houston. Yeah. He is from not far from where I live in the state of Alabama. Saw him play high school football a little bit, but he put on a great performance in their opener against Murray State. 14 carries, 128 yards, a couple of touchdowns, had a 51-yard run there. They've got several running backs, Engelberger, Rucker, those guys. They've got a very strong run game. They had 392 yards in their game the other day. So, but then again, you look at Tennessee's defense, who is pretty good at providing pressure and stopping the run. That's kind of where I feel like the strength on strength kind of goes towards Tennessee based off what we saw last week. But this is a really good ground game that they have, the depth there for ETSU in that run game. But yeah, the pieces they've put together, I think is a good recipe, especially in the league that they play in.
Yeah, I think so. And we'll give you some quick comments here, too, from Will Healy before we make our picks. This is from Ryan Callahan over at Go Vols 24/7. And, I thought some interesting quotes he put out. We talked about McNamara and Criswell. So if you're a Tennessee fan looking at the matchup here, they sort of split carries. They sort of, again, divided it up between those two. And so, yeah, I'm curious to see. Maybe that's one of the storylines in this one is sort of how do they use both of those guys potentially in this matchup against the Vols. But, yeah, I think that's sort of something. And looking at some of his thoughts kind of on, again, just Tennessee and trying to simulate the noise, right, of Neyland Stadium and how they're going to do that. Um, he said, quote, I've got like an extra boom box or two that we may bring. So maybe just put some headphones on all the guys. I mean, the noise is going to be a factor. There's no question about it, which is fun part about playing there. So, so again, we know how that works when you have a team that's traveling to play in such a unique environment on your schedule, the way that ETSU is going to do against Tennessee. So that is something that we will look at as well. But before we get into our picks for this one, which I know some of you maybe are waiting in suspense for. Let me tell you quickly about our friends over at GameTime Sidekicks, officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. All the SEC schools are there. Tennessee fans, get your cups at GameTime Sidekicks, plus over 350 more universities, stainless steel sippy cups, tumblers, 40-ounce bottles, and shaker cups. GameTimeSidekicks.com, SE16 for 20% discount to our viewers. And head over to ROKFORM.com, ROKFORM.com, the world's strongest magnetic phone case, extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock secure mounting. They got lots of stuff that they're doing over there. Tremendous people at ROKFORM. SEC25 for 25% off. SEC25, 25% off. We'll put these promo codes in the description below as well. And our new friends at Hovey Drive Goods, your new favorite hat. Look no further than Hovey hats for high quality headwear with a great fit and unique designs. We'll have the promo code coming soon as well. Tennessee fans, I think you will like some of the stuff they're doing as well at Hovey Dry Goods. So, all right, Chase, we'll make our picks for this one. Look, we both know we're going to pick Tennessee. I guess maybe the better pick here is sort of how do you not just see this game playing out, but maybe what is it you're most looking at for Tennessee in a game like this against ETSU?
To me, let Joey Aguilar let it go a few times. Like, let him go out there and continue to get comfortable in this role at Tennessee. We knew his numbers from when he was at App State. They were very good. I was interested to see how he would do stepping in where the schedule's tougher. But to me, let him go out there. Let him let it go a little bit. Continue to get comfortable with the guys around him. Let this run game go. Get some receivers involved. Just let the offense show out a little bit and let them get some confidence, ride some confidence, because it's a tough schedule, obviously, as always, that Tennessee has. So, you get Georgia next Saturday if you're Tennessee. So stay healthy, but get some momentum. Get some momentum heading into Georgia. Let this offense go to work.
Yeah, I'll give you one more quote here, and I think this kind of, again, speaks to where this game, will have the most focus, and this is what Will Healy said as well. The same quote here from GoVols 24/7. He said, quote, I've watched a lot more of their defense than I have their offense. Keep in mind, we're recording this on Tuesday. I think he'll get to the film on all of it. But, he said, man, their front is really good. I think they're physical. I think they run really well. They've got great size. I think their back end is a place where I've heard, about all offseason was, we've got to get better in the back end, and they look great. They've got good length. They run, again, really well. I think from a defensive perspective, they are one of the best teams in the country for sure. So I think that goes back to what I said earlier, sort of, I think setting the tone for Tennessee will be the big story here for them, just to come out, try to fix, clean up some of those areas like they had against Syracuse. Will they be challenged in the same way? Maybe not. But we did say ETSU does have a couple quarterbacks that have played at the high level, and I think that's at least something where on paper, this is not a bad ETSU team at all. They're a very, I think, interesting team, and with Will Healy leading the way and some of those elements we talked about, whether it's the experienced quarterbacks, having a defense that feels like it can have a lot of success, there are at least some things matchup-wise. Tennessee can't just come out and just sort of sleepwalk through this game. So we'll see how it plays out here for the Vols against ETSU. We'll have it covered in our reaction streams that we do on Saturday. So be sure to tune in for those. You guys know we always go live on Saturdays reacting to different games. We'll have multiple windows of live streams. So if you're a Tennessee fan, you can probably jump in on that one. Actually, you will be one of the featured ones on Saturday because that 3:30 p.m. Eastern window has Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Missouri, Kansas as well. So we'll be reacting live to those games after they happen and this one. So turn on your notifications, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. We appreciate you supporting us here at Southeastern 16. As we said, support our friends over at FanDuel. Check out all the action over there. Have fun, bet responsibly. Same game parlays, lots of wagers on the SEC games in week 2. So support our friends at FanDuel. Again, we appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you soon at Southeastern 16.